I bet it's quite annoying for companies like Ubisoft in 2024, where you have Elon Musk owning Twitter, because conversations like this would just get shut down in 2020. You wouldn't be able to post stuff like this. And if you did, either the algorithm would suppress it, or at worst, they would just flat out delete the conversations. Or even if you were posting this stuff often enough, they would eventually just ban the person. But now things are different. Now you have people that are organizing. You have people that are saying enough with this quadruple A nonsense. I understand that you're a gaming company, but what you're trying to do, and they're very outspoken about it, you're trying to push the boundaries. You're trying to change morality. And it's not your job as a gaming company to change morality. Your job is to actually provide entertainment. And the companies, they're basically saying, yeah, but we are providing entertainment. Look, we made this game in Japan, and the Japanese people love it because we got an expert. We got an expert, and he's from Japan. He's got a Japanese name, and therefore, he knows what he is talking about, and you're just crazy. You're insane. Well, they're trying to gaslight. But the problem is that people are looking in on these experts, and what they find out is that they posted stuff like, I wrote about Animal Crossing New Horizons and why acknowledging Japan's history of colonial rule is important to the discussion. Obviously, it doesn't cover everything, but feel free to read. So why is this important? Why is this type of rhetoric toxic? Because we see it all the time, especially in the West, right? Like, why acknowledging, why talking about the bad past? And the answer is because it's a very disingenuous conversation. First of all, human beings as a whole are very territorial creatures. And in the history of mankind, every single people, regardless of the geographic position, of the ethnicity, or anything like that, every single people who had the ability of conquering others, they did so. And this is from the tribal era all the way up until the modern times. So it's not just the Japanese that did it, but obviously the Europeans, obviously the Americans, and even tribes like Indians, for instance, the Aztec Empire, the Mongol Empire, so on and so forth. Like, the idea that nations aren't founded on the blood of the ancestors, and that throughout human history, the concept of it is yours if you can defend it didn't exist is absolutely ridiculous. But as we can see here, you do have this conversation. So what is the purpose of this conversation? Is it just to educate you on the nation's history? No, because they never talk about the positive things. They will never have a conversation about, all right, well, let's talk about Japanese's imperial history. And it's usually viewed as a negative light. I mean, if you look at the Mongolians, they're actually very proud of their history. There are people out there that are still very proud of Genghis Khan and his accomplishments. You have people in Europe that are proud of the Roman Empire, right? Like you can talk about it from a way that, look how our ancestors managed to develop their nation state, and how they managed to defend against other invaders, and how they managed to conquer. It's never viewed like that. It's always incredibly evil, and we're pretending that the people we're talking about were the only ones doing it. And they never talk about the positive aspects. Like, they will never say, yeah, like back in the day, this is what Japan did, but like now, they have released this many medical papers on how to fight cancer, and they have saved this many lives. They never talk about that. Like, the purpose of this conversation is to make people in the present feel ashamed for stuff they never did. It is very similar to the Christianic way of the original sin. Like, you're born in this world, so even if you think you didn't do anything, just by the simple fact that you are born, you actually did something really evil. Well, not you personally, but your ancestors. So like now, you need to go to church and pray. You need to donate to church. You need to acknowledge that the church has more power and influence. You need to acknowledge that the priests are smarter than you and they know the way. and you need to listen to them. And it's literally the same mentality that these woke people are doing. It's like you are born sinful because you are a descendant from these individuals. And what you need to do is to give us more power. So people like Kazuma, you need to respect and revere them. You need to donate to their Patreon. You need to look up to them. You need to listen when they speak. You need to never contradict them. And more importantly, you need to agree with policies that may or may not be good for you. And be okay with censorship. Be okay with the art changing in order to help other people realize that they're also sinful. And if your way of life, if your quality of life decreases, you need to shut the fuck up because your ancestors did bad things. So now it's okay if in the present bad things are happening to you. And this has been going on for years, and people are finally starting to notice. And when they see something like this, they treat it with the utmost suspicion. Like this is pretty much like an admission of guilt. So when people start digging a little bit more, oh, it turns out that this person was a member of Sweet Baby and was also writing similar articles. So they're an activist, they're a partisan person. It's not just like an individual that likes to study Japanese history or is interested in seeing how people in Japan are receiving a video game and they're making this interesting article. No, absolutely not. And in a way, I'm glad that it finally happens. And, you know, for those of you who are still not convinced on why this conversation is toxic, imagine if you were to work at a company. Like, imagine if you were to go and you work at BlackRock. And BlackRock would educate you about the history of its company and how many people it hurt when it foreclosed, when it took people out of their homes, all the bad business practices that they did, manipulating the markets, all of the companies they short sold and how they influenced the market in order to change the public opinion and cause their stocks to go down, and how many people they put out of a job, etc., etc. What company would do that? Like, what company would get employees that would start talking about only the negative aspects of its company history? Like, imagine you're going to work to Coca-Cola, and instead of having, like, Robin DiAngelo's works in their diversity trainings, they would actually start talking about stuff like, oh, so, listen, back in the day, we actually sold Fanta to the Nazis, and you know, we didn't care about the embargoes and anything like that. We just wanted to do business. So we also put a lot of additives in our drinks, and you know, like, our drinks are not really that healthy. Like, what company does that? What company would tell its employees only the negative aspects, and then expect like company loyalty? Like, corporations do not do this shit because they know it's toxic. So why would anyone entertain this? Because it's not coming from a conversation of good faith. Like, yes, Japan was colonial, but so were the most other nations on Earth. Yes, Japan was colonial, but it also did great things like advancement in the medical knowledge and curing cancer. Yes, Japan was colonial, but it's not now. And we live in the now. And you can't affect the past. And I disagree with this. It's like, oh, okay, well, if your ancestors did bad things, okay, so now we believe in blood guilt? Like, if the father does a crime, should the son pay for it? No, you don't believe that. So if you don't believe that, why do you apply it? Like, okay, so if the father did the crime, the son shouldn't pay for it. But if the great-great-great-grandfather did the crime, then the son is responsible. It's ridiculous. So yeah, let me know what you guys think, though. And as usual, I will see you in the comment section. Take care.